Hello and welcome to the Lobaloney Valley Bromeliad Society Zoom presentation featuring Mr. Chester Skotak. Hi, I'm Ken Simpson, the Vice President. Welcome to our members and guests. Thank you all for joining us. Paul Nakamura has muted all participants for the presentation. You can adjust the view on your screen in your Zoom window for speaker view or gallery view. You may ask questions for Chester to Paul using the chat feature. He will present your chat questions to Chester. More about this at the end of this introduction. LBVBS Club Affairs will be discussed after the presentation. If you would like to receive announcements of our future meetings, please email your name to blplantman@gmail.com. And for those of you that don't know, that's Barry Landau's email address. We thank you, Chester Skotak, for the time and effort you put into your presentation for us tonight. With more than 50 of your hybrids in my collection, I personally thank you for the artistic brilliance you have added to my life. And you'll notice that my pictures in each slide are of your hybrids. I start this section by adding to your biography that tonight you are making history for your international live online Zoom presentation to the LBVBS and our international guests. Chester is one of the most influential and successful hybridizers in the bromeliad world. Born and raised in Texas, he lived in Naples, Florida, before moving to Costa Rica in 1978. His fascination with bromeliads goes back over 55 years. Chester owns Duraflor, a thriving bromeliad nursery in the town of Palmares, an hour's drive from San Jose, and sells bromeliads in Costa Rica. Chester has led plant collecting expeditions throughout Central and South America and introduced into horticulture varieties including previously undescribed species. 3 have been named in his honor: Guzmania skotakii from Costa Rica, Ecmea skotakii from Ecuador, and Varesia skotakii from Panama. Chester is a world-class expert in bromeliad hybridization. He was the first to produce variegated Neoregelia hybrids from seed, pioneered spineless Ecmea hybrids, and created complex Guzmania hybrids. He owns over 100 patents and has over 550 hybrids registered with the Bromeliad Society International. More recently, he has been working with pineapples, and his sights are set on revolutionizing the pineapple world. His miniature pineapples are unique and receive rave reviews from everyone who sees them. A man of many talents, Chester invented the board game Chorizo. He has written many articles for the Journal of the Bromeliad Society International and a debut novel, Searching for Miss Fortuna, The Hunt for a Bromeliad. The LBVBS is a nonprofit organization. The LBVBS presenters, members, and video producers are not financially compensated for these presentations. Attendance at our Zoom presentations is free to all bromeliad enthusiasts. Donations can be made to the LBVBS to offset the Zoom presentation costs using PayPal. The following slide will show the scan code and the PayPal website. Have your phone available to save the information. So here's the scan code and the PayPal website that if you're inclined and feel like you'd like to help offset our costs, we would appreciate it. Thank you very much. And Chester, it's all yours now.
Are we ready?
Yeah, gonna go to screen share.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to start this program off. I've been doing this for actually maybe 55 years now. I did the numbers today. That's a lot of years I have, and I still don't know everything there is to know. That's why we get together. That's why we have meetings. That's why we talk to one another. There's still a lot to understand, a lot to know. So I'm going to begin this program. I'm a little bit eccentric. I know how to have a good time. I've done some crazy things in my life, but I stay busy. I'm always busy. Every morning when I wake up, I leave the old man in bed, and I start out as a young man trying to face a new day and new challenges. This is the proof in the pudding photo, 1975 article in the Bromelia Journal. And I was thinking, wow, that's 45 years ago. I was just a kid, but we were all kids, weren't we? Most of us. So we've been at this a long time, some of us. It's very interesting hobby. This is my father who promoted me and stayed with me and helped me. He built this greenhouse for me. I was probably 18 or 19 years old at the time. I saw my first Acmea fasciata I went to a parochial school, so I saw my first Acmea fasciata in the garden of the rectory. And it was October, November, and it was getting cold, and I asked if I could have it because it didn't look so good. But the priest said no, and next thing I knew, he flew off on a private plane, and he crashed it in Katy, Texas, and I had to go out there with my mom and dad and see this pile of rubble. So I went back to the church and took the Acmea, saved it from a certain death. So I started my hobby. At the time I was growing cactus. I grew up with this in my blood. I have to admit it. I was asking my mother for cactus plants when I was 5 years old. That's what I wanted for Christmas. So here I'm showing a Guzmania conifera from Ecuador. And as the years go by, these are photos we dug up and I looked at. This is Peter Bach and I. We both had hair. We were both slimmer. We're nothing like this. This is Guzmania longipedala in Lita, Ecuador. It's a very rare and pretty Bromelia. It's very nice. Guzmania alba rosea in Lita, Ecuador. We're going to go through a lot of photos here, so I'm hoping I won't bore you. This was my first journey into looking for Guzmania fortuna in Fortuna, Panama. Just so you have an idea, in the end, there's a Guzmania scherzianum and a Guzmania lingulata, but in the end, it took me 2 years, I think, to find this plant. It was quite an expedition. And where you're seeing this photo now, I went back last year. None of these plants are there. The forest is taken over again. There's no light, and so the plants have disappeared. They're somewhere, but they're not there. This is Guzmania whitmacki in its natural habitat in Ecuador in October 2016. A lot of people don't see these, but this is exactly how they grow. This is what you'll find in the wild. Everybody knows what a whitmacki is. You see them everywhere. It's a commercial plant and used in commercial hybridizing for Guzmanias in Europe. This is the entrance to my nursery. This is Duraflor. Built this nursery back in 1988. It's a foggy morning. Here I'm up on Volcan Baru in Boquete, Panama. These are agave werkelianas. The reason I went up there is because when you're looking for bromeliads or new plants, you have to go to places that are different, places that haven't been looked at, places that people don't go. And what I found up there was this agave. They were everywhere. No bromelia, but an interesting trip. Here's a garden. You can see how well I take the weeds out because I don't, but everything was in flower, so it made a nice photo. Here's an Alcanterea Pita. Now this Alcanterea came from Brazil. And I was up on a rock with many years ago, I guess 30 years ago, 25 years ago. We were up on and I was with Pedro Nahom and Rafael Oliveira. And we were walking around on these rocks, looking at these Alcantereas, and they found this marginated one. And of course they were talking back and forth in Portuguese. Me, being innocent, I was just watching because you don't find marginated plants in the wild or variegated plants in the wild. It's a rare thing. So they were arguing back and forth, and at the end, they both looked at me and handed it to me. So I'm not going to tell you what the letters P-I-T-A mean, but they have a significance for me, and I've told a few people. But it's a very interesting plant. It's one of the best Alcantereas to grow. It makes a lot of pups. It's very healthy, nice plant to grow. And since then, the Alcantereas have spread out, and growers in Australia or New Zealand, well, all over the world are growing these Alcantereas by the thousands of seedlings and picking out seedlings to have new varieties, new clonal varieties, and new varieties. This is a Alcanterea imperialis variegata. I just want to mention on imperialis in Brazil, there's many types of imperialis on these mountains, many types, it's not just one. There's green ones, there's purple ones, there's smaller ones, there's large ones, there's everything you can imagine is there. It's just a matter of driving around and looking at them, and that's what I did. I looked at thousands of them. These are more types of Alcantereas. These are all variegated, all very rare still. This is Skotak's Big Bang. You can see how big this is. These are coming from Australia. Bobby Gold, White Star, Yellow Star. These plants are popular, but you need an outside garden or a lot of room in your greenhouse. This is just a photo of types of Alcanterea imperialis I have. I brought quite a few of them back as seed or seedlings years ago. We still grow them. They're very majestic when they're flowering. You can see. It's very nice. Very nice plant, very nice landscape plant. This is a Alcanterea Jeffrey Long, which is an Alcanterea Nahomii by a Variesia Charlotte. And I actually went out with Pedro Nahom, and we looked at the Alcanterea Nahomii. It grows in a place, that plant grows in a place where you would say, well, it's too hot, it's too dry, it's too sunny, but there it is. And if anybody deserved to have it named for themselves, Pedro certainly did. Pedro's put a lot of work into the Bromelia world. This is a Tillandsia. I say affinity Fendleri because it doesn't, there's a lot of these type of plants in Colombia. That's Peter Tristram standing there looking at me. But there's a lot of, in Colombia, you'll find Tillandsia Fendleri, but they're not. These are all going to be taxonomically different, but they haven't been separated out yet. Colombia is really the mother lode of all types of new bromeliads that are going to be introduced into the world over the next 25 years. It's a wealth of plants. It's just new varieties, new species. Many plants will eventually come out of Colombia. This is my beautiful wife, Lorena. With me, of course, we're in China. Behind me is Gasmania Hope. That Gasmania is based on Gasmania lingulata fortuna, which I showed you in photos previously that I went actually looking for it. In the wild, when you collect plants, when you look at plants, not all plants, I'm always looking for plants that I can use in my work, because in the bromeliad world, there's a lot of the flotsam and jetsam of plants that are interesting botanicals, but they don't help me they don't help me very much in producing better plants than what I'm doing. Not to say that they're not interesting, because species to me are very interesting, but there's only so many hours in a day. This is Lorraine and I in Thailand. We went to Thailand in October 2019 because I was on Facebook and I was reading this guy's comment in Thailand, and he said, wow, if Chester ever showed up here, I'd give him my wife. That's what he said, I'd give him my wife. So I said, Lorena, we're going to Thailand. So we packed up our things and we surprised him. What a wonderful group that is. What a wonderful group of people. We met people from Malaysia, from the Philippines, from the whole area, and just you couldn't ask for a better group of people. Wonderful society. Thank you very much. Here I'm showing you guys, man, this is a Fortuna hybrid. This is a Francesca that's white. It's an albiform. I don't know how many of you have seen this, but this is a very interesting Guzmania. I like it. I think it's very different. Here's an overview of where I'm doing my Guzmanias in Palmares, Costa Rica. We're located at 3,000 feet, and we have a springtime constantly. It never gets too hot here. It never gets too cold. Sometimes we get some tremendous wind and sometimes we get some tremendous rain, but it's the earthquakes, the volcanoes, the hurricanes, things like that get to me. But we've put up with all of it. I'm sure a lot of you guys have your problems also. So plants do very well here. Here's the hybridizing area where, as you can see, these walls are actually keeping out the hummingbirds and the bees that will pollinate these plants just because they want to, because that's what they do. So we go in here at 6 o'clock in the morning, every morning, and we pollinate these plants. And so we have to move fast, and there's a lot of work to do, but it has to be completely enclosed so that we do it and not Mother Nature. Here's a picture of the work on the tables. More work. I understand that I work mostly with gosmanias because in Europe, gosmanias are the favorite plant to grow, or California, lots in the United States, I guess, that there are lots of, it's a favorite house plant. It's not what a lot of people do that I know. Collectors are more growing into Neregias, Tillandsias, Acmeas, but gosmanias is what brings the bread and butter, or whatever you want to call it. This is Gosmania francesca in the background, and then Gosmania alba rosea in front there. Here's a picture of the seeds that we're ready to ship to a lab. This is how we cut them. We prepare them, we ticket them. We ticket them when I say we write up the cross, what it is, what the date is, and whether there's a rush on it or not. This is how they go. That we send them in a DHL box to Belgium, so they're going fast. This is the laboratory in Belgium. This is an employee of mine, Mariella, who's looking at plants in the laboratory there. We spent some time. I think that's me. It must be me. But this is how we have to dress, because we're getting we're checking out our inventory. There were 300 commercial varieties being produced now. Now there's about 400 right now. So you have to understand that not all of them are commercial, but all of them are being looked at. All of them could be commercial. So we have to look at all of them. This is how they look in the boxes. This is when they take them out of the meristem. They do them. This is not meristem. This is green seed meristem. Those seed pods I showed you, they open them up. They take out the green seed, which is almost mature. They put it on a type of agar, and this is how we move. They grow them, and then they put them in boxes again. I think this is twice planted. Here's how they look in the laboratory, just like grass in boxes. I don't know if you guys have seen this kind of work or not, but this is how we do it. Not everything, but this is how we do gosmanias. And we also do gosmanias here, just growing them on tree fern, or we grow them ourselves. I actually have a small laboratory here. Here's an unnamed gosmania hybrid. I'm going to show you these gosmanias are very complex, just things that we take photos of because they're interesting, but we're going to find out if any of them are commercial or not. It turns out that what I like as a commercial plant is not necessarily what the public likes. So I'm going to show you this here. These are gosmanias. I think this is Gosmania, Gosricea. Understand what you're looking at is a very complex hybrid. Some of them maybe took me 25 years to get where I got. And a lot of this turns out to be dead ends. They don't amount to anything. So I keep some for nostalgia, but no, life is too short. So we have to move on. And I usually dump them when they just don't perform like I want them to. And we have to throw out a lot of plants every year. We throw out a lot of plants. Here's an interesting plant. This is an improved Gosmania fortuna, where the heads, the inflorescence, is actually larger than, or almost as large as the plant itself. Understand me that the inflorescence is what you're looking at, this big red ball, because most people will say, oh, that's a nice flower, but it's not the flower, it's the inflorescence. The flower is inside these bracts. That's the flower. anyway, that was quite an accomplishment. Really nice plant. These guys, we were out in Fortuna looking at plants, and we were very close to where Lingulata fortuna grew, Gosmania fortuna. This is Bill Fix, Bruce Duddenson, Peter Tristan, Mark Paul, and yours truly, and we're all here. I just to give you an idea of what it's like. It's hot. It's a lot of fun, but there's never any guarantee you're ever going to find anything. Never expect to go anywhere and think that you're going to have a field day and 100% success. It never works like that. Just ask somebody who's out looking for gold. It never happens that way, but it's the fun of it all. These are types of different color forms of types of Whitmacais that we're growing. Here's the Whitmacai out of the wild in Ecuador. That's near the border of Peru. And the plants are not as robust in this area. These are types of color forms that have come out of playing around with Fortuna, hybridizing back and forth over the years. Yours truly with some interesting small number Gosmanias, more Gosmanias. I put this photo on Facebook. A lot of people like this plant. It's very interesting, but of course it's not commercial. It's just not stable. It's an interesting plant. Makes a nice photo. This I believe is a Cressii hybrid. This is an Albo rosea hybrid. This is Gosmania Hope and how they look in Holland. Why this plant is very commercial. It's very popular all over the world. There's a lot of them grown, and we've actually improved it since this photo was made. If there was room for improvement, I'm surprised, but it's a very nice plant. This is Gosmania Marcella in Holland. It's a very bright plant, very bright. Doesn't flower and is very much in demand also. And this is something I was talking to with Barry the other day. These are small miniature Gosmanias based on Gosmania Teresa. I was in China 6 years ago, and I was talking to somebody, and they said that was working with Gosmania Teresa was a dead end. Oh, I like a challenge. Just remember, if you're going to go into hybridizing bromeliads of any type, I don't care if they're Tillandsias or Gosmanias or Brises, there's no such thing as a dead end. It's what other routes people take, but you can take a better route, and there's still a lot of ways to go. We produce a lot of types of colors that are going to be coming out. Better plants, they're miniatures, they're very interesting. Here's another. Here's a purple one. Here's Chester looking right at you. This is a white one. Very hard plant to make, but it's very, very nice. This is a Gosresia. More Gosresias. I make Gosresias, but I'm not a big fan of Varesias, to be honest with you, because here where I'm in Costa Rica, Varesias don't take a lot of the rain. They melt in the rain. So I'm just going to tell you right now, if you can't grow something, and if it looks like it's having problems, throw it out. Throw it out or give it to somebody who can grow it and grow something else. There's too much out there to be frustrated. So I grow some Varesias, but not all Varesias, because they tend to melt here. Like during these last hurricanes, 2 weeks ago, 2 hurricanes, it rained here 6 days straight, 24 hours a day. The Gosmanias were fine, but the Varesias, many of them just melted. So we do make some Gosresias. This is an interesting pink form. This is a Varesia splendens, small plants, very branched. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I do it for fun. I make it hybrids every year. Not hybrids, but they're selfings. This is me when I was young and pretty, holding a heliconia leaf out in Ecuador somewhere. You can see the bulldozed track out there. This is an interesting plant. I think that this plant is in Australia and Brazil. This is Tillandsias cyanea, or known as Wallisii cyanea. They changed the name on it. I didn't look it up, but I believe it's because of the DNA that they searched. And some taxonomists figured out that in that group of Wagneriana, Platyrhacus, Laxosissima, cyanea, well, cyanea was different. It's called Wallacea, while the others are called Barfusia. The only thing I can say is that Wallacea is an interesting name, but it doesn't know it's not supposed to hybridize back and forth with the Barfusias. So it is fertile. Whether this is a name forever, or something temporary, I don't know. I believe this will be called Tillandsias cyanea for years to come, because they're going to stick with that name in Europe. But who knows? I try to respect taxonomists, but sometimes all these name changes, it gets very difficult, especially if you're working with plants and you know just a little bit different. This is Tillandsia Antonio. I'm putting the other name of Wallacea Antonio. This is a group of hybrid Tillandsias. In that group that we made, the reason I'm showing you this is that you can see that there's a variety here. And all of these I'm sending to Europe. The reason I show them to you is because we have high radiation here in Palmares, Costa Rica. We have high radiation. I send them to where we get a lot of light. I send them to Europe where they get little light, because I can say, wow, that's a beautiful plant. But if I send it to Europe, believe it or not, a lot of these will bloom green, or they just won't have any color. So that's what happens. Maybe out of all of these, maybe they accepted just one and the rest were tossed. This is another hybrid I made. Hybrid. These are very nice. This is Wallacea Antonio that is being sold all over Europe, all over the world right now also. We made this, I don't know, 8 years ago. It's a very popular plant. There's an alba farm of cyanea. White. I don't know if that's going to become popular or not. I don't know if people like the white flowers. This is a Barfusia, affinity Platyrhacus. I'm just going to go through these real quick. This is a Barfusia laxosissima hybrid. It's a hybrid. Barfusia laxosissima. This is a species. This is another Barfusia. This is Wagneriana. Barfusia wagneriana. These will all cross with each other back and forth. They're very fertile. There's a special way to hybridize them. And what you have to do is imitate a moth. I guess it's called a proboscis. But you have to understand that when you pollinate certain Tillandsias, you have to know what is pollinating them. And we take the end of a Tillandsia leaf off with a curve, and we take pollen from one and put it on the other. And of course, on a plant like this, you might get 3 or 4 seed capsules. You don't get hundreds of seed capsules, except for on Laxosissima, which is self-fertile. Okay, this is an Acmea flower rosea by Acmea fasciata. But notice down below, it has no spines. It's a spineless plant with yellow flowers. So this is an old hybrid I did, but I kept it because it's very interesting. I liked it. Here's a miniature fasciata. Well, I'm working on these right now. We're coming up with some miracle plants that we're doing that are very nice. Syncorea albopictum. This name was recently changed. It used to be called orthophytum. And when you get old, you get these names stuck in your head, of course. And orthophytum was something that I enjoy because I can remember it. And Lord, just when I'm starting to remember all the plants, they go and change all the names again. So this is a Bromelia rosea from Brazil. These are not uncommon. These are common plant. This is common all over the area where they grow. There's many forms of it. Many forms. I'm surprised it's not in horticulture. Here's an interesting clone. I think it's very nice. There's many of these where these grow. When I was in Brazil with Eloise Beach, we were collecting these, and she saw something like this, and she ran over to collect it or to see if it had any seed, and broke her ankle on a rock right there, just snapped. And we were really out in the middle of nowhere. It didn't stop her. We continued today like nothing happened. Amazing. She's quite a person. This is another type of rosea. This is Bromelia villosa. Nice color. And this is what seed look like when they're pulled out of the bromeliads. Bromeliads are very tough, spiny plants. If you ever have some of you have this plant, it's very difficult to work with. Use gloves. You don't have to use skeleton gloves like I do. But this is what they look like, these seed. This is a hybrid of the villosa I just showed you with a Bromelia rosea. And it was recently registered as Bromelia alien. This plant is very easy to grow. It's easy as any plant there is to grow in Florida. It'll grow outside. I think it'll even take cold. I hope it gets popular. A lot of people don't like the spiny plants, but this is a very interesting plant. Okay, these are Ananas mini-me. This is a commercial plant they're using in Europe that we sell worldwide also. I'm sorry, I have to show this photograph because that's mini-me. But this is how small they are, so you can get an idea. They're all spineless. Note that they're all spineless. We did make a breakthrough on how to miniaturize these plants. We did make a breakthrough. And this is a pineapple ananas. Of course, some of them will do this and they turn red, but I don't see the commercial viability in it, but they're still interesting plants. This is Matilde Ramirez, who works with me in the pineapple project more than anything. I consider her one of the best in pineapples in the world. She's really a brain, helps me a lot, or I help her, one or the other. Here we're in the commercial pineapple farm. I actually have a commercial pineapple farm, it's a research farm. So we're currently growing, right now we have 50,000 plants out. We're putting lime on the fields because the pH of the soil is very acid. So we're trying to bring the acidity up, the pH up. And so this is how we do it. And this is what works for us. And this is how our pineapples, these are seedlings. Now understand, every plant you see here is a different plant. It's a different clone. There's no two plants here you're looking at that are the same plant. They're all different. They're all spineless. And you could easily grow thousands of these plants. And that's how hard it is to get a commercial pineapple. It's very difficult because there's some internal qualities on pineapples that pineapple you buy in the store has to have the correct ascorbic acid, the ascorbic acid, vitamin C that helps in shipping. A pineapple can ship for 8 to 10 days. Also, it has to have bricks of over 15. The shell of the pineapple on a lot of pineapples, when you're doing a commercial project like this, a commercial research project, the actual shell, the outside husk, will dehydrate. As soon as you pick the pineapple, harvest the pineapple, it will start wrinkling. It's strange, but pineapples are extremely, they have a mind of their own. I thought that this would be a simple project, but it's not. It's not at all. This is a miniature red. The pineapples offer just a range of all kinds of mysteries. This is a pineapple that had fruit that was internally turning red. Since this photo was taken, we're improving that. We work on internal colors. This has nothing to do with GMO. It has nothing to do with any kind of transgenic. This is pure hybridizing. This is using your wits and figuring things out. These have pink overtones. Of course, we're very excited about this kind of work because in the world of pineapples, this is a first. Not that it's a first to have internal color, but it's the first to have internal color simply by hybridizing. It has nothing to do with transgenics. So it's to be honest, it's fun. I love the challenge. Before I leave this world, I'd like to see a finished product. Here's another, you can see the pink and inflorescence. This is a recent. This is a miniature red. We produce quite a few of these also. I imagine we probably produce 2,000 or 3,000 of these a year. Different plants. And out of that, we select 10 or 15 that we ship to Europe. And out of that, they might select one they're going to use. Just so you get an idea that this is not easy. Here's a pink. Here's to give you a better idea of how small they're getting. This to me is a throwback in evolution. When I see these kind of plants, I think, well, maybe this is how they looked up on the Tepui type mountains 10 million years ago. Maybe this is somewhat, because you see a lot of this in bromeliads where plants seem to be reverting back to their original ancestors, that you see them going backwards. Recessive genes are expressing themselves. We see a lot of that. I've been doing this for 50 years. It would be interesting if somebody could figure out if it was true or not, but that's just a hypothesis I have. This is not shellacked or anything. This is exactly how it came out. Looks like a candy apple. That's a miniature. It's a pink. This is piping. I don't know if you can see along the edge of the leaf, but the edge of the leaf has rolled in white bar. It looks almost marginated. It's called piping. Piping is part of the pineapples, and it happens in all spineless acmeas, also neoregeas. Piping is something that the spines are gone till the edge of the end of the leaf. There's no spines, absolutely none. If you ever look at a spineless fasciata, those spines are still there. Look at the leaf, study the leaf, look at the leaf. If you study a leaf of a spineless fasciata, this is something most of you can do tomorrow. You'll see a line in it. You'll see a line. And in that line, that's where the spines are. They're overlapped on each other. They're overlapped on each other. And if you grow enough of these, you'll see the spines actually inset into the epidermis of the leaf. It's very interesting. A lot of people don't know that. The same way with what we're looking at with this pineapple, what they call piping. Of course, the fruit is fasciolated. That's where the growing tip starts expanding lengthwise. This is a double-headed fruit. Not unusual for us. 2 pineapples. Here's another one, a reddish form, 2 pineapples. 2 stemmed pineapples, miniature. This small edible pineapple. Some of these pineapples are very sweet. This is 4 pineapples on 1 peduncle. This is some of our miniatures that we do. These are all pollinated and we're waiting for them to ripen so that we can harvest them. You can get an idea of the size of the fruit and the size of the plant. As I told you earlier, it's very difficult for me to decide what the public likes, because when I say, wow, that's wonderful, and then I inquire about it, they say, no, nobody liked it. So I guess I'm more of a collector than anything. I'm more of a collector. I try to think commercially, but it's not that easy. Here's a part of traveling, looking around. I don't know, this photo is an outlier, but here it is. I have lots of photos of disasters on the road. Here we're taking seedlings out of the greenhouse to be planted. These are pineapples. The disc are to keep sunburning on the fruit. They put them on they put them on his sleeve, and they put it around the bottom of the crown, and it keeps the fruit from burning. And this is part of how we label the plants. The hybrid C172 number 5, there's 228 number 7. We have all of this labeled, and we know exactly what the crosses are. The reason is because if one of these crosses produces 2 or 3 or 1, interesting plant that might be very worthwhile, we will take that hybrid, the same hybrid, and pump it up and make a lot more to see if we can get something a lot better. We're heading to get a standard cross, a good cross going. We're going to need approximately 25,000 plants per cross, 25,000. When MD2 was produced, Del Monte Sweet, or the sweet pineapple they sell in the supermarket, that's how it was done. There were 25,000 plants done in each seed group. I'm going to show you this photo real quick because this guy is dressed like that not because he's a terrorist. It's because they work in the sun. That's how hot it is. I mean, it's hot enough to breed sheep there. It's hot. So they dress like this. They dress like this every day. He doesn't have on his long sleeves and gloves, but you can't get a job doing this kind of work unless if you're over 40, forget it. And you won't see any fat people either. Not like me. Okay. Okay, so here we're taking pollen off the plants, we're taking the pollen off the plants. We're going to go in, we're going to get deeper into this here. Here's a group of red pineapples that we produced. It was eventually discarded, but you can see on the left-hand side, there was another type, and on the bottom, there's other types. But as much as I want it to happen, there still has to be a shipping pineapple. It still has to have the internal qualities to be shippable. It has to have the ascorbic acid. It has to have a short peduncle. The architecture of the plant has to be right. The weight has to be right. It has to weigh at least 3,000 grams. There's a lot of quality. We figured there's at least 25 things that we have to know about a pineapple before we can even consider that it's commercial. Pink. This is what they look like. This is internal pink. This is yours truly. These pineapples here, this is Danilo. He's a worker. These pineapples you see on the ground was a one-day harvest. Every one of these pineapples that you see is different, genetically different. Every one is genetically different. So we have to take these pineapples, and see, I'm holding a little one there. There was a miniature we found in the fields, but we have to take these pineapples, take a sharp knife, and we have to eat them. And by the end of the day, I'm talking about test just a small spoonful of them. And by the end of the day, tongue is swollen, you can't talk, water tastes funny. It's because you just too many pineapples. But the first test, the very first test I make on a pineapple is, how does the thing taste? How does it taste? If it doesn't taste good, I don't care what the qualities are. If it doesn't taste good. Once it tastes good, then we start checking into the rest of the things we need to figure out about it. This is Matilda and I. Here's a nice pineapple. I like this one, but we're taking a look at it. Here's Matilda staying out in the fields. We just bought the farm across the street. We're going to expand now. This is my son, Jonathan. There's Danilo. We're pollinating. They're pollinating at 6 in the morning. The dishes are there in case it rains at night so that it won't wet the pollen. The sleeves are there that you're looking at are to keep the bees off. Bees will come into into pineapple inflorescences very fast, and they'll get into the flowers. And not that I worry about auto-pollination or self-pollination, but they actually eat they'll eat the anthers. They'll eat the whole flower. So we go through this process to make sure that our pollination is correct. Here's the pineapples that this is how we grade them and look at them, and when we make our decisions on them. It's not easy. We have to decide on the pH, the Brix, the weight, the color, the dates. I'm just going to show you a few of these just so you can get a good idea of what we're doing here. It's a lot of work. Let me show you real quick. See, this one has Brix of 11. You need the pineapple that you buy in the supermarket has Brix of 14 or 15. It doesn't ferment. It's a shippable pineapple, so it doesn't spoil easily. The reason being is that the ascorbic acid is high. Here I'm looking at strange pineapples. This is what many pineapples do. This particular type of fasciolation, the growing tip is expanding, is actually genetic. This is a genetic thing that happens, and as much as we try to avoid it, they still happen. I can tell you that we've been pollinating dark leaf pineapples, just the leaves, for 25 years, and I still get sometimes a quarter or half of our seed group are green leafed. So you can say that it's heterogeneous. The pineapples, you're going to get a whole range of things. It's just a very interesting group. This is a miniature with you can see the growing tip is completely out from north to east or west. It's very strange. There you go. There's a good photo. This is a red one. This is an outstanding plant. I actually brought this plant home because I said, wow, we're going to multiply that. That was 3 months ago. It never made a pup, never made a crown, and it's sitting in this pot doing nothing. So it might not go anywhere, but I'm going to try because it was really outstanding. I mean, somebody out there in a collection would love to have this. This is Ananas Matilde for Matilde. She was really proud of this plant. There we go. And these are pineapples we're bringing home to Palmares from our farm in San Carlos. Here I'm in San Carlos. These poles are used to mark pineapples. The red plaque behind you is used. We put gummy liquid on it, or gummy type of glue that attracts a type of moth. Now this moth lays eggs on these red pineapples. They're attracted to red, and the larvae actually bore into the pineapples. This is all over Costa Rica, right? I'm holding the poles, they're PVC poles, to mark interesting fruits. You can see them behind me, because when you're doing something like this, there's so much going on. There's so many plants to look at that if you don't know where you're going to skip some. Here's an entrance to the pollinating house where I'm doing Nerigillas. These are Warraia, that's a Warraia sanguinolenta from Costa Rica there on the bottom right in a big pot, the marginated plant. I just want to say that I know that in Europe that they use moving benches. I was in Europe where I saw that there was a massive greenhouse of several acres, and to pull a bench up of seedlings, they punched on a computer and the benches started moving. The best I can tell you is that my benches move because when we have an earthquake, they sometimes almost fall. But that's about as high tech as we get. Here's inside of where we're working with neos, acmeas, pineapples, just everything. This is where we're marking Nerigillas that were pollinated. I want to say real quick that I see where people in Australia will put straws over them, and they'll do 10 or 15 crosses on one inflorescence. I used to do that, but I don't do it anymore. I just do one cross and that's it, because that takes somebody more valiant than I am. These are all crosses. These crosses that we're doing. This is how they look. They're all marked in what they were done with. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because the inflorescence, after hybridizing Nerigillas for so many generations, what happens is that the cup starts pulling in and the inflorescence cannot expand. So to expand, I take these leaves and I take them out. I take the center leaves out. You can see that I'm cutting the center leaf down the middle. And the reason I'm doing that is that this inflorescence will expand and I'll get complete floration. If I don't do this, sometimes you get 3, 4 flowers and it stops. So I'm showing you, so you might consider this if you're going to work with neos. And that's what it looks like. I punch holes. I take a pencil, or usually just a pencil. And the same thing, these plants are overly hybridized. So you can see that the inflorescence is underwater. The flowers are underwater. Well, of course you can't pollinate that. You can, but you're not going to get anything. So I take holes and I punch them in under the leaf there. under those flowers so that all that water disappears. It won't hurt the plant, but you need to drain that water. You cannot leave that water there. So these are what ripe Neoregelia seeds look like. When you just tug on them a little bit, they'll come out. You'll do fine. You'll be surprised how easy it is. These are Acmea seeds. It's very obvious, right? Once you mess it up a few times, you'll learn. Trust me. I have fouled things up, just like a lot of us have, but you'll learn. So we're squeezing these seeds into water. See, I'm squeezing them into water, into a jar. These are ananas seed. And let me tell you real quick that these seed have a gel cap on them. It prevents germination. It also helps the seed stick to a limb or whatever that it's going to grow, but also it will cause fungus. So we leave these seed in water for 5, 6, 7 days. We leave them in water. We wash them. We dump the water out every 1, 2 days when the water gets old or nasty. And we keep doing that. And one day those caps, you'll see all the excess gel around the seed come off. It'll start coming off. And one day it's all gone. Then you take this seed out and you dry it. First off, you're going to avoid a lot of fungus problems. To grow seed like this, you're going to avoid a lot of fungus problems. So you keep changing this water. This is like taking care of babies. You just can't walk away from it. It's simple, but it's a necessary step. Here, this is Matilda. She's planting seed of ananas, getting them ready, labeling them. We try and do it as cheaply as we can. That's a type of tree fern. Those are cereal bowls, plastic cereal bowls you can throw away that you can buy in the supermarket. Of course, punch holes in the bottom, because if you don't, they're going to fill up with water. So the reason I say that is because we didn't punch holes sometimes. So you learn. Then we take a plastic bag and we put it over these so that they'll maintain their humidity. Here it is. And you can do most all Bromelia. It's just what I'm showing you. You can start Tillandsias this way. You can start Rosea, Guzmanias. This is very simple. The whole apparatus of what you're seeing here would probably cost you $2. Here's a whole table of them. I've been doing this so long. I'm so used to this. And this is what starts coming out. You can see that obviously we're doing a lot of seedlings here. These are variegated Neoregelias. Now I'm going to tell you that all these albinos are going to die. There's just no sense in waiting or hoping or praying. But you can see that some of these leaves some of these small plants have variegation in the leaves, and they will make it. At about this stage, we get tweezers and we start taking these variegated ones out. We start a new pot, and somebody with good eyes, and I used to have good eyes, or I still do, but it's tedious work. But somebody does this work, and we take all these variegated ones out, we leave it for a week, and then go over it one more time before we toss it. How do we get, this is me doing that. But I'm going to tell you real quick that we fertilize these, maybe some soluble Peters fertilizer. We fertilize them once in a while, every few days, but leave the fertilizer on for 15 minutes and then wash it off. Don't leave the fertilizer on. Don't leave the fertilizer on, because you're asking for problems. You're going to get fungus problems. And when you get fungus problems, what's going to happen is you're going to lose a great majority of your seedlings. The fungus that attacks Neoregelias and a lot of Bromelia seedlings more than anything in my part of the world is Helmithium sporium. That's it. Find a fungicide that will combat that. And you do not wait until you have a problem. You do it as a preventative. Don't wait until you're saying, oh my God, I'm going to lose everything. No, you do it as a preventative. then it'll be easy. But I'm going to tell you again, I'm going to remind you again, this is like taking care of babies. You just can't walk away from it. I hope I'm clear. So here I am, and I'm taking these seedlings and I'm putting them in transplanting them. I'm transplanting them into another pot. You can see behind me where we're doing this, so all these pots. I don't know. I'm looking for variegated seedlings. I need a good magnifying glass. Younger people don't, but I do. And this is what they look like. Now, what I've got here is Osmocote. Now, Osmocote I can get here. So I don't know what you guys have, but let me tell you real quickly. Bromeliads, especially Neregias and Acmeas, I don't recommend using this for Tillandsias or Guzmanias or Varieseas, but for Acmeas, Neregias, in the Bromeliads family, that this is what you do. We wash the Osmocote off because it has a coat of film on it. If you just put it's 3-month Osmocote. We put it on, but it's washed. First we wash it. We put it in the sun and we dry it. That's easy. It takes a coat of fertilizer off these little pellets, because if you put it on there right out of the bag, it's going to burn these plants. It's going to burn them. But because these plants are constantly feeding, we wash it, we spread it out like this, and they grow very fast. The trick to growing this Neregias is to grow them they'll grow just as fast as you can push them. Just don't push them too fast. If you have a problem with fungus or whatever, cut the water. Cut the water. Bromeliads are very tolerant. I've seen ananas in Brazil that didn't have water for 7 months. They were fine. Tillandsias, there's lots of bromeliads that will take a lot of abuse. Don't think that these things are so delicate. Here's what they start looking like. See, eventually I'll take out the green one there, or we'll start making room, and maybe in another 4 weeks, we'll start putting these into separate pots. Here's another shot where they're getting bigger. This is what they start looking like. I take them after about that size. I take them outside so they can start getting color. You can see the color that I've got on. That this helps me. This helps me decide what to keep and what to throw away. These are pineapple seedlings. This is how we're doing it. These are all pineapple seedlings on the benches. These are Acmea seedlings, I believe. And this is garbage. I know you're going to say, wow, look at that. Well, you can't grow it all. You just can't grow it all. There's got to be a point where you say, no more. I can't do anymore. So we try and select out the most logical, the best, the most promising plants, and everything else has to be tossed. If you're going to hybridize plants, you're going to have to be ruthless. You're going to have to be cruel and not look back. It's the only way. It's the only way. And this is what starts coming out of them. Not me, the plant. This is a Neregelia. This is Neregelia retorsa. This came out of Brazil a few years ago. It was discovered. This is what it looks like in habitat in Brazil. It's growing on the ground. When I saw these, there were cows getting in there. So I don't know what the status of this plant is. It's new to horticulture. Neregias, this is what comes out of the seedlings. This is a Virida venosa. It makes green flowers. Actually, they're emerald green. Photos don't do it justice. I don't take a lot of photos because every time I take a photo of a plant, I seem to get my shoes involved in it. I seem to get my shoes in the plant. So others take photos. They won't let me take photos. But this has an emerald green flower. It's very nice. You gotta enjoy what you do. This is Arctic Blast, Neregelia Arctic Blast. I'm going to go through these. Avant-Garde, Austin Tiger, Backstabber, Barbed wire. I've got to tell you that Eloise Beach, you can see why this is named barbed wire, but Eloise Beach names these plants for me. I'm really bad with plant names. I enjoy it, but I can't, it's hard to attach a name to a plant. She does a good job. She's been a great friend. Blazing Fire, Nerogelia Blazing Fire, Nerogelia Bulletproof, Cantankerous, Contagious, Crazy Rabbit, Deep Space. This is a retorsa seedling that came out and it started to variegate, and I kept working it for 2 or 3 generations, and finally we got this retorsa that was completely variegated. Here's Eye Candy, Freak Out, Frenzy, Gadzooks, Gizmo, Gunsmoke, Hellraiser, High Intensity, Hypershock, Hypersonic, Hypnotic, Igor, Instant Karma, Intense Fire. I know I'm going fast, but I don't want you guys to get bored. This is Jet Setter, King Cobra, Lightspeed, Lime Fire, Lucifer, it's a devil of a plant, Luminosity, Magnum Force, Megawatt, or no, it's, yeah, Midnight Fantasy, Nerogelia Hellfire, Invincible. This is Nerogelia Invincible. These plants, Nerogelia Strike Force, Wild Dynamo. I just want to say real quickly, I see on Facebook and get letters from people in Thailand or wherever in the other side of the world, people that are multiplying these plants by they look like the thousands. You know, we make a plant, we might release 10, 15 plants. That's it. And then another nursery takes them and they might take that plant, they're not patented, and multiply them into thousands. That's like, I look at it as giving it back. I enjoy my hobby. I enjoy my hobby. I want to promote my hobby. I'm just like a lot of you or all of you. The idea is to promote our hobby so that in the future it'll all keep going. So I try to think that way. Life isn't all money. Neutron Star, Nitro, and this is not named yet. It's obviously a fireball hybrid, and it's marginated, very brilliant color. Notorious, Pandemonium, Pizzazz, Polar Vortex, that's pretty. Pulsar, Pure Venom, Rampage, Red Zeppelin, Shrapnel, Smoking Hot, Snake Charmer, Speed Demon, Chester, Strike Force, Star Blast, Strike Force, Supersonic Boom, Supercharged. Notice the bands. Anybody who's working in the Nerogelia knows where all this is coming from. Tantalizer, Tidal Wave, Tigerama, Time Warp. I just want to add something here that I'm very free with my information. I mean, when people write me and they ask me, well, what's this about? What do I need to do? I tell them. They might skip 5 years or 10 years of frustration, but I'm just going to tell them, and people will come here, and sometimes if they want a plant, I'll give it to them because I really want them to get interested. It's a very fascinating hobby. This is Toy Tiger. This is a miniature. Twisted Sister, which is a wicked plant. This is still unnamed. This beautiful plant. Unnamed. These are soon to be named, right? I'm adding some photos here. This is the same clone, a marginated and variegated plant. Came off the same clone. These are unnamed. Named, Wide Load, Nerogelia Wide Load, Wild Rabbit, Crazy Rabbit. This plant has become popular worldwide with collectors. It stacks up the leaves. There's a marginated form and there's a variegated form. And I saw a form the other day with darker green, a marginated one with a darker green center, but the same stripes. So this plant is very, very nice. I recommend this if you're going to grow near Regilias. These are young wild rabbits. This is my good pal, Eloise Beach. We're in a greenhouse looking at all these near Regilias. It's a logistical nightmare, but we've been handling it. Zero gravity. And this is the growing area for trialing neos and more. This is where I'm growing just all kinds of bromeliads. Understand that I have I don't know if I had to guess, maybe 2.5 acres of greenhouses with all kinds of things, all kinds of bromeliads, right? We do sell commercial plants here in Costa Rica, but I also have my hobby greenhouses. These are variegated neos that we're looking at, and this is where they went. They're going to be thrown away. The reason they're going to be thrown away is because this is part of being heartless. I don't want to release anything that I think is an inferior plant to the public. And believe me, I've done it. I'm probably guilty, but I try not to be. So this is part of the process, is that we actually throw away a lot of plants. And some people are going to go, oh my gosh, I'm going to go have to hang out at his garbage pile. But what we're saving is much better than what you're looking at. So we have to make decisions and just dump. We have to throw them away. This is another pile. This is a giant pile. And I do this all the time since the pandemic came on. Oh my gosh, we hauled out, since sales went to nothing, we had time and we hauled out truckloads of plants, cleaned it up, got rid of things, made decisions. This is how it's got to be done. Here's a spotted hybrids, neos, more neos. These are neos coming on. And these are all unnamed. Hybrids, giants. This is Neoregia Gizmo. It's a cross. It's a hybrid with Lilliputiana. And here's the pup. Isn't that something? This is a Passiflora hybrid, a marginated hybrid that I kind of do this as a hobby. I'm probably 6 or 7 generations into it now. I do these just for the fun of it because it's a challenge. But the Passiflora is to get the stolons. People who hybridize, you don't get stolons in 1 or 2 or 3 generations. You get some, but you don't get the long stolons. It takes maybe 4 or 5 generations to get this kind of stolons to work. This is another clone. This is different from what you just saw. This is also a Passiflora hybrid. This is also a Passiflora hybrid. But to get the stolons is really difficult to do. This is another Passiflora hybrid. These are all types of neos that we're trialing on the bench. The spines. This is a bicolor. This is Marie Regina variegated with perfect flowers. I say perfect flowers. It has the anthers and the pistils and the pistil. I brought the original plant home from Colombia. We have Marie Regina here in Costa Rica, but we have male plants and we have female plants. I found groups of them in Colombia that the flowers were complete and grew out a batch of seedlings of them. And sure enough, one of them came up variegated. This is Acmea Skotaki, I believe. I found this in Ecuador years ago. Anybody can pronounce that name, they're better than I am. But Jungorensis is a plant that I collected in Panama. Gosh, 15, 20 years ago. We walked from Sambu up to the Colombian border through the mountains, 8 days. And we left from an Indian village way upriver from Sambu. And when we got back from this expedition, yes, every bromeliad I saw was new. but getting them back was not so easy. Plus, when we got back to the village, there was a big celebration because they figured that we were all going to die. I went with Reginald DeRose on that trip. It was one of the most interesting trips I'd ever taken in looking for plants. Just completely new botanical area. Really wonderful, but difficult. This is Acmea goldmine. It's a Blanchetiana variegata. Here's the inflorescence. It's very large. This is floating around now in places, I think in Miami. I hope it one day becomes a landscape plant there. It's a nice plant. Here's an Acmea, a yellow fever. It's a plant of a type of a Chantenai that I was growing. Understand that when you take plants if you take an Acmea and you try to pollinate it within itself, you try to auto-pollinate it. And that inflorescence might produce 1 or 2 seed, but understand that those seed are all recessive genes. So when you start getting recessive genes, the red disappears and all of a sudden you get whites and yellows, and it's not easy, but that's how it is. There, I said it. Here's Acmea Big Bang. This hasn't been released yet. It's a Nidulaeoides cross, an Acmea Nidulaeoides cross. This is fasciata by Tasmani. By Tasmani, it's spineless. It's never been named, but this particular plant I took to the 3rd level of actually, these fasciata by Tasmani are generally sterile, but we got Tasmani on it one more time, but that's where it stopped. We never could set another seed on it. Nice plants. Acmea supernova. This is a Tillandsia depiana, hybrid, of course, with a Variesia. This is Pitcairnea funkii. This grows on close by here, within 45 minutes. They're wild, thousands of them, but they only grow in just one spot. Maybe if you drove by it, maybe it's less than a quarter mile patch of them, and you won't see them anywhere else because plants do that. You know, I'll tell you real quickly, if you're ever out looking at rocks or plants or antiques and you want something and you can do it, because you're just not going to go that way again. I highly suggest you make decisions and do it. This is Atrorubens. It's Harry Luther told me that this was Atrorubens. It's a pink form. This grows close by here also. I don't know if it's Atrorubens or not. This is Nigra, variety Pucella from Ecuador. It's a miniature Nigra that we used in some hybrids. We crossed this with some Pepinia, Leopoldii, made some interesting plants. This is Variesia Skotakii from Panama. This is, believe it or not, this is an easy plant to grow. I think we released maybe a few in the United States a few years ago. Undescribed species in Panama. It's proposed to be Gosmania Skotak DeRosea, but it was being done when Harry passed away, Harry Luther. So we never got that far. So I think somebody is writing it up again, but I'm not sure. This is in Colombia, which is just a wealth of Gosmanias. This is a Gosmania sanguinea. It's red, and this is a yellow. And the reason I show you this is because in nature, a plant like this, and a plant like this, and you'll find everything in between. You'll find red and yellow ones. You'll find greenish ones. You'll find green ones, because depending on what's pollinating them, they change their appearance. They change their growth habit, but their flowers and the basic structure of the inflorescence is all the same. This is Alcanterea John Stoddard. And here's John and Zelia Stoddard. We were in Caracas, Venezuela. Wonderful people. So there they are, the living McCoys. Venezuela is not so easy to get into anymore. Here I am in Brazil. I was lost. I had no idea what Auma is or Prata or Ecoparanga, but you know, Actually, when you get out in this part of the world, you better kind of follow the sun and know which way is north. This is the habitat of Bromelia charlesii. Well, it's not really, this is transgenic soya they're growing out here. So we went out looking for Bromelia charlesii. And there's a patch of forest out there that they're protecting. And I don't blame them, but they have completely destroyed for miles and miles and miles the land to plant soya, to this GMO soya. So when I went to go find these Bromelia charlesii, I was with Eloise Beach. We walked in, we found them. We didn't collect any, but when we got out, I mean, it's like a sin. There weren't that many, and it was just interesting to see. It was interesting to see them. But when we got out, this farmer was just really mad, and he was telling us that it was a protected area and that we shouldn't be there. And as he's talking, I'm looking out over this vast plain of destruction, and they've saved a small patch of original, I guess you'd call it a type of Rastinga. And they saved this small patch like it's mine, it's all mine. But that's the ridiculousness of looking for plants. If deforestation doesn't get them, cows will get them. And if cows and deforestation doesn't get them, fires will get them. Here's the road there. You can assume that it's not so good when it's raining. This is part of the trip, trying to get across the river. This is what some of the mountains look like there. Here I am with Peter, Tristam. We're out and looking, where this is Riccia spinosa, variety Gruberi, and we showed up in Colombia, and Peter has said he was so happy. He said he found the plant and he went to its original location. So I had to go see it too, because what Peter had found was really one of the holy grails of the bromeliad world. So I had to go with him also because he was excited. I got excited. And sure enough, there it was right on the other side of this raging river. And Franz Gruber had given us the directions, but nobody was sure that it was there still. So we went, and that's part of the fun of doing this. You meet a lot of nice people. And Peter's a wealth of knowledge in the bromeliad world, very much respected. Here I am with Encolarium diamantinum. We thought we wouldn't find this plant. They were everywhere, like to grow on rocks. And no two are the same. No two are the same. It's something that genetically it's going outwards. It wasn't a homogeneous spectrum. This wasn't out in the middle of nowhere. This was just south of nowhere. This was really, really out in the middle of nowhere. But once you were there, they're everywhere. Plants know what they like. They know more than we do. This is what it looks like in the wild. This is an Encolarium reflexum. Here's diamantinum with banding. Not that it was rare or anything, but when you're out looking at them, you can expect anything to show up, and it usually does. This is a diamantinum. Look at the spines and how the plant, the habit of the growth. Isn't that strange? So I was telling you before about putting up with things like volcanoes and hurricanes and rain and just general. Right now we're being plagued with something called crazy ant. I'm telling you, we have ants crawling all over the place. We have millions of ants, because that's the latest plague we've got going on. In the background is volcano Turrialba going off. Sometimes we can see it from here. If not that one, we have Poas going off. And if it's not that one, it's just a whole range of volcanoes here. So where's all this going? What's my vision? So I'm going to tell you that I'm going to be 69 this next year. And if you're young and you're really interested in moving forward in bromeliads, follow your dreams. I can only tell you to believe in what you're doing and to keep doing it. There's still a vast world of hybridizing, if you're just interested in growing species, or if you're just, there's the world of bromeliads and plants is very, very large. So I can say that this is what I always wanted to do all my life, that I enjoyed it thoroughly. I did follow my dream. I became a success at it. It's been difficult, but here I am tonight talking to you guys, and I do appreciate all of you coming out. I want to thank the La Bologna Valley Bromelia Society. They've been great for inviting me. Thank you guys. Thank you a lot. Thank you, Barry Landau. Thank you. I had a good time. It was a fun opportunity because this was a lot easier than I thought it would be, because all I'm doing is talking to a computer screen. My vision for the future is to do it and don't give up ever. That we're all in this to promote the hobby and to make sure that this goes on long after we're gone. So let's do that, just that. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, Chester. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. It was great.
Hey, thank you, Chester. I know it was potentially painful, but you did a great job. Thank you.
Did you learn anything?
Yeah.
Great job.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I had a good time. It was a lot easier than I thought, because all I was doing was talking to a screen. I don't have to see a lot of people, but yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I knew you would find it easy because you're an affable and funny guy. And who knows, maybe in a year, we'll get you to do it again.
Oh, I already have an idea for another program.
Oh, great.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
You're on. Paul, you're muted.
Barry, is it just you and I talking?
No, it's what it is
everybody else is.
How did it go? Did you like it?
Excellent.
Really?
Okay, hold on, everybody. We're going to go into the question and answer part of the program. So, Chester, if you take a look at, I think probably on the bottom of your screen, if you're on a PC.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff going by.
But there's one called chat.
That's what I'm looking at. This is chat.
Okay, so if you go to chat and you go to the very top and you just kind of scroll through the comments and questions, it's probably easier if you just kind of go through them and see what questions are worth your time in answering.
I see it's going by really fast.
Yeah, just start at the top and go down. There's a lot of just comments, so you can ignore those.
Well, I mean, maybe we could take verbal questions if it's done in an orderly manner.
No, that's just, okay.
Let's do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why don't you unmute everybody, Paul?
No, everybody has to unmute themselves.
Okay.
I have a question.
Hi.
Hi. What makes a plant unstable?
The variegated neoregeas?
Yeah, the ones that you pick out.
Oh, what in what respect? When you buy one
you had mentioned that you don't want to keep the ones that are unstable.
I try not to release plants that are lineated or well, that's not true. I released a bunch of plants that were lineated so that others could go on hybridizing them. But when I say unstable, I want the plant to be marginated or variegated so that because I don't know if you notice or not, but people are making hybrids and they're registering anything. And the world is running out of names. It's very difficult to come up with a good name for a plant.
Yeah.
Try it. Try and come up with a word that you want to put to a plant It's almost impossible.
Yeah, well.
Thank you.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. Oh, okay. So my question is, you do look for a lot of species level plants, and I know you're a hybridizer, but I mean, just in case some of those plants do get extirpated in the future, you just mentioned that soybean farm. Do you have like a depository of seeds or plants where you plan to keep just in case something bad happens? Or because a lot of people do grow species and a lot of species aren't commercially available, but they do have their appeal.
Oh, I agree. I agree, but I actually have to make a living at this. I try to save as much as I can, Peter, but I've been at this, oh my gosh, I've been at this for, like I said, 55 years now. And I've been to places that I've actually collected in front of fires. I know places that were just completely burned, just they're gone. I know a lot of bromeliads that were never described and they're gone. But I can't do it all. I think that part of the reason that we have a society is that people like you would take some obscure Tillandsias from Cuba or from Brazil and preserve them and spread the seed and plants around to other collectors, because I don't know what the easy answer to that is. I live in Costa Rica. I've seen a lot of destruction. Although here it's turned around, in other countries it hasn't.
I'm in Canada, so I can't really harvest anything, but the sites in Europe are pretty good at storing some seeds. So I try to grow what I can, but it's tricky because it's really slow. So
I suggest you move a few thousand miles south.
Peter, if I could put part of an answer in, part of the problem is that everything to do with rare tropical plants is completely, insanely underfunded. So you have an entire world of amazing horticultural plants, and nobody's protecting them. Nobody. And you're seeing the wholesale degeneration of our entire world. One of the things I'm working on with Pedro Nahum now, and that I'm trying to work on to finance in a big way, is a project to start having collections of endemic bromeliads, first to start in Brazil, and to build a series of botanical gardens in every biome in Brazil. I'd like to do that in every country in South and Central America. The problem is you don't have stable political systems. You don't have stable economies. These are not food plants. So the seeds aren't being stored in Norway. So what I have done and what Chester is here tonight doing, we're just trying to keep people interested in the hobby, because by and large, the biggest repository of bromeliads now are from the collectors. Okay, there's some in botanical museums, botanical gardens, but by and large, the only way these plants are going to survive is by you and me and collectors staying interested. And that means we have to bring young people into the hobby. So that's what I've been trying to do with my Facebook pages, Planet Bromeliad, Planet Tillandsia. We're making every effort we can to increase the interest and thereby in some way preserving part of the hobby. Last thing, I will let you know that I'm making applications for grants to people like Mr. Microsoft, Bill Gates and other people, to prove to them, to get them to understand how important these horticulturally interesting tropical plants are, and that there's a reason to keep them going. They could provide income and jobs in the nations they're from. All right, I won't go on and on.
Barry, I'd like to add a question here. I'd like to read something from Pedro Nahum that he's got on the chat that I'd like to answer. He says, Chester, I remember the day when we got the first banded Neregia carcharodon from that nursery, that orchid nursery in Marica. And you started to call it Tiger and said that it could create a whole new class of neohybrids. My question is, do you imagine before the first hybrids came out that enormous success? Am I on?
Yeah.
Okay. The answer to that question is, when I published the first hybrids of that in the Bromelia Journal, if you read the little article, I predicted that we were opening a Pandora's box and that a lot of new variegated and interesting hybrids would come out of that. At the time, I didn't have any. There's one thing I'm going to tell you about hybridizing that is unusual, and with people who hybridize that are really good at it, like Grant Groves or Jeffrey Kent out in California, is that I walk around and I look at plants. I look at them all the time. I go out on Sundays and I look at them, but I never come to any conclusions of what I'm going to hybridize. It's like painting. Sometimes all of a sudden it'll just hit me. I might be eating dinner. I'll say, I'm going to pollinate that with this. It's like thinking sideways at hybridizing. It's coming from somewhere, which is very hard to explain, but I just know. And there are people out there that also know. I see it in Thailand and Malaysia, and I see it all over the world going on. There's some very good hybridizers out there. That makes me happy. I agree with Barry that I would like to see a lot more young people come into this. We need young people. None of us are young people, but I see you, Ken. We're I understand that. I think that's what I'd like to see also. People might think that you and I and we're doing this for some sort of a profit or something. We're not. We're doing it because this is what we love to do.
Exactly.
This is it.
Yep.
Chester, is it possible to ask a question about pineapples?
Sure.
Kind of it's a two-part question. For the pineapple breeding, did you seek out any wild material in habitat, or did you just use cultivated material to improve upon that? And the follow-up question would be, with some crops, they found out that the pollinator affects the fruit quality. Have you been able to eliminate that as a factor?
Well, of course we use wild plants. Here in Costa Rica, there's an Ananasioides, which is a very nice fruit to eat. So when you're hybridizing with pineapples, just like if you were hybridizing with anything, you better have some wild genes in there because that's what's going to bring out the diversity. I think it would be a mistake to use the old plants and just go back and forth with them. As far as pollinating, a pollinator affecting the quality of a fruit, first time I've ever heard that.
Yeah, I was told that in apples that can be a factor. So a different
I've never
male.
heard of pineapples.
Yeah.
Well,
okay, thank you. Pineapples
are sterile. You cut a pineapple open. There's no seed. They don't. Pineapples will make seed if you pollinate them, but the MD2, what you buy in the store is a sweet pineapple, has no seed. Doesn't matter how many times a bee pollinates it, it will not make seed.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
Okay, anybody have any other questions?
Yes, I'm David here from South Africa. Some of the new hybrids that we see are actually very interesting and beautiful, but I do see a lot of new stuff coming through that all looks the same. Is there actually a new way of patterning that you actually are looking at?
No, I don't disagree with you at all. I don't disagree with you at all. It's one of the struggles of hybridizing plants is to come up with plants that look very different, right? That's what we're trying to do now. But yeah, a lot of these things, they aren't the same. They have different growth habits and they have different appearance to them. But it's they're for the collector market. People who can actually see a difference. They're not commercial plants in any way. So I'm always trying to look for something that will stand out. And that's the part that's not so easy to do when you're hybridizing plants. Find something that will stand out. You know, I don't know how many people in the world are hybridizing right now. I do hybridizing of all kinds of bromeliads, but it certainly hasn't been easy. It's been a lot of fun, but it hasn't been easy. But yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. You know, when you get into things like Acmea fasciata, you'll see that they all look the same also. A lot of Gasmanias also look the same also. Yeah, well, it's true. And when you come out with something that's different, it's because you're trying to be creative and intuitive, and you're hybridizing and trying to come out with something that will impress people and impress the buyer or the collector. And that's the trick to it all. That's what we're always trying to do.
Yeah, because normally space is the problem, and you don't need 5 or 6 plants with the, all different names, but they all look exactly the same, and only a size difference, you know. So my problem is I need to know what exactly the difference is before I can collect a plant. So, but thanks.
Part of the problem here, David, is that you have, let's just say, unscrupulous sellers who would prefer to be able to sell whatever they want under whatever name at a high price simply because it's got zonation or tiger striping. So you get a lot of backyard made hybrids that are garbage. And whereas in contrast to that, you have someone like Chester who might spend 25 years getting good conformation, good form, good color, proper size. I mean, he has standards that he goes by. And because it's an unregulated plant world, you have a lot of garbage that's been bred that's being sold by people who don't have high moral standards. So there's no way to control this.
I have a question. Take, for example, your Tigerama that was in your presentation. How long did it take you to get there?
Are you talking about the trips I had to make down to Brazil to look for the original mother plants and trying to figure it all out? It took.
Let's start in
probably. Just to give you an idea. Maybe that group since, gosh, I don't even remember when I put that article out in the Bromelia Journal, but it was at least 15 years. Maybe.
Oh, longer than that.
Yeah.
I think the article came out 22 years ago.
Barry, time's going so fast. I'm just having such a good time. It takes a lot of years. Everything I'm doing, I mean, pineapples have taken a lot of years. Everything I'm doing takes a lot of years. I'm not complaining. I'm just, I can't say that I want competition, but I'd like to see some competition out there. I'd like to see some people hybridizing with some new directions, not necessarily following what I do, but come up with their own ideas so that we can keep expanding. And they will. People are very smart. They'll figure it out. But there's always new ways to go here.
If I could interject, I know there's a lot of other people who want to ask questions, but I have one important question, Chester.
Yeah.
We know that it's virtually impossible to clone the variegated neos. There is some kind of limit to that. I'm going to ask you a kind of a cutting edge question. You may or may not have an answer. We now have this marvelous invention called CRISPR. This is the newest form.
I know what CRISPR is.
Newest form of genetic manipulation. I'm hoping that we'll see a breakthrough. I have always felt that your work in neos, which you don't make a penny on it, that these plants deserve a broader audience. And who knows, maybe in the next 10 or 20 years, we'll see a way to do this. I wish there was some way for you to harvest some economic income from it, but I think it'll be beyond our lifetime.
Barry, I'm doing fine.
Okay. But I just wanted to say also, these variegated neos changed the hobby. You're talking about, these are the most desirable plants, at least in California, and certainly on Planet Bromelia, pretty much every 5th or 8th photo is a Chester Skotak variegated hybrid. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you. That was nice. Okay, are there any more questions out there?
Hello, I have a question.
Hello, Bear.
Father, it was a great presentation. Thank you.
My son.
So, Pops, I've noticed you showed us hundreds of different varieties. And I know most of these varieties are introduced to the market, and they're very well accepted in the Bromelia market because of how the market is just constantly changing and adjusting. So where I'm going here with my question is, you've been doing really well here, but with the pineapples, basically 99% of the world knows one variety. So you're doing all this work, and I think, and I believe that one of the hardest parts of just introducing a new Ananas comosus, an edible pineapple, is picking the right one. So my question is, what are you looking for exactly? What's gonna make you pick the right pineapple? Because you're competing against MD2, which is basically one of the steep pineapples. Is it clear?
Yes, I understand.
You got it?
What am I looking for compared to what you see in the supermarket is MD2?
Yeah, how are you?
Well, the world depends on, the world is selling one pineapple, MD2. That's a great fruit. It's high in ascorbic acid. It's high in sugar bricks. Its pH is correct. Its weight is correct. The fruitlets, the eyes on the outside, the crown, the growth habit, everything is correct. But I see where there's room for more. I see where there's room for competition. That I'd like to produce a pineapple that will produce more anthocyanins. That would be easier to grow. You know very well that we started the pineapple project because we're trying to get away from agrochemicals. So we originally used an Ananas lucidus, which is resistant to coccinilla, scale, and doesn't free flower. Doesn't free flower. So the idea is that you know that the waters here in Costa Rica are being contaminated in the pineapple farms. So we are coming up with a fruit that when we grow these pineapple plants, if they have any fungus problem at all, they're destroyed. We don't try to save them. They have no resistance. We're trying to come up with a better plant for a better world. Yeah.
Thank you for your answer.
That's my son. He's smart.
This will all be yours someday. Your headache.
Yeah.